Let's talk buy lows. Let's talk sell highs. 3 weeks, almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks, that's actually the date. 2 weeks into the NBA season. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and wait, they don't love you like I love you. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at LockedOnFantasyBasketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, use the code LockedOnNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com for your newsletter for your favorite team. Whatever your team is, the newsletter is there. It's got all the information about your team from around the world, and just in one neat little package. Also, double bang, thumb, comment, blah, blah, blah. No games today, obviously. So it falls perfectly on the date where we've got 2 weeks of data, and that is why I haven't done any buy low, sell high shows specifically. I've given plenty of situations and opportunities where guys have been struggling and telling you to like relax, buy low, this is not going to sustain, all that sort of stuff, right? So that has all been sprinkled in. Let me just get this part out of the way right now. Buy lows, sell highs. It's great in theory. It's fantastic. I think 90% of the utility of this is looking at either your own player or somebody else who's on the wire or whatever and going, that's probably not going to hold in either direction. I think that's a lot of that, because achieving a buy low and a sell high, honestly, requires either a completely divergent opinion between you and the other manager or someone making a stupid decision. That's really what it is. And I know there's going to be those of you saying, well, I'm in actually the most competitive league in the world, and it's just competition. Everything that we do is competition. I brush my teeth faster than those guys, and I tell them about it every day. There'll be those of you, and that is fine. I am also one of those ones, like, what's the point of doing a trade unless in a category league you're looking, well, I've got too many guards and assists, and I don't need these. I need blocks, and I find someone else the opposite, and we do a mutual handshake. W for both teams. But if you're trading, like, this guy's like a point guard who's 30th, and this guy's a point guard who's 34th, like, what's the point of that? Honestly, like, when you're sitting in a situation where the odds are maybe 50-50, 60-40 of you coming up better than that, why do it? Unless you're just addicted to trading, which is another thing that you need to work out with your friends and family, intervention style. To me, the point of a trade is getting something where you feel confident about it. And if you don't have to do it. And with these buy lows and sell highs, people may not fall for them. They may not believe in that. But there will be divergent opinions absolutely everywhere with some of these players. And that's where it becomes interesting. So, that part out of the way. You can try a buy. I know, and what I'm not going to do on the show is tell you, trade this guy for this guy. That is completely stupid, in my opinion, to be able to do that. I am not here to micromanage everyone's team. If you just throw out that one-off for that one player, it's never going to work well for you. Start a dialogue. Ask a question from another manager, even about something different versus trades, and then you move into that stuff, and then you try and work out the valuation of these players. I'm not going to say trade this guy for this guy. That is, again, because I also don't know the context of your team, your league, your manager, none of that stuff. And providing those sort of specific examples, I think, is more detrimental to a team versus not doing that. Because then you can really, people will really, this guy said this, so I'm going to really hyper-focus on this particular trade. Okay? All those caveats out of the way. And when I say someone's a sell high, you don't have to get rid of him. It means if you get an offer that you go, wow, that seems ridiculous, I'll take it. Otherwise, you enjoy the hot streak. And then they cool off, and that's fine. And the ideal scenario in fantasy is you acquire buy low players who are playing well below their value. They come in, they go well above their value for a period of time, and you sell them off for someone better at that point, and you just keep acquiring value that way. It's impossible to do as a general rule, but that is the ideal scenario. That is how you would do it. I traded a paperclip for a house. That's the idea. Working that out, amongst real humans in a trading environment is not an easy thing to do. I'm sure people will have comments on this, by the way. Actually, should I rage bait something as well? Yeah, let's do it now. Do not ever have trade vetoes by league vote in your league. It is an insane system to set up. It is not the most fair way. It is the dumbest thing that you can do. Also, a commissioner who sits there and decides the value or your league's like, we've got a value. The players have actually got to be within 4 fantasy points to make a trade. Insane. It's ridiculous. No, you should never do that. Collusion is obvious to see in trades. It's obvious. If someone is cheating, it is obvious. Otherwise, it's not your business. It's not your business how someone values a player, because guess what? If you believe it is your business, that means that you believe that your opinions on those players are 100% correct 100% of the time. And nobody's like that. I don't believe that. So to come and tell you, well, this value is going to be great here and this is going to be this and I know this and this is clearly unfair, it's not true. You don't know that. I don't know that. Nobody knows that. League votes, garbage system. Commissioner deciding based on some sort of random rules that you've put in whether something's fair or not, none of his business either. Veto for collusion. Simple. You will never change my mind on that. And this is actually something that I know that I am correct on. Rage bait the comments. Let's talk buy lows and sell highs. Like I said, we're not like digging into this stuff as clear gospel. We've still only got limited data on these players, but let's just go through it. And I think we're in a situation where Jalen Brunson's been fine, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's been awesome. I thought Brunson was a solid enough second round player, and I still think he can be in that second to third, what we talked about all off season. The second round is basically round 3A, and the third round is round 3B. It's all in that same sort of an area. If you are watching this on YouTube with the graphics, what you can see, the numbers down the bottom of the screen under the name are Jalen Brunson's current season averages. At the top, that where it says RK31, that's my projected -1 category league rank for him. The next one is what he's done so far, that is 61st. The next one is what I project his fantasy points to be around, 43, Yahoo scoring, and so far he's averaging 38. That is how the format of these things will go. On the right-hand side of your screen, which is my left here, over here, on this side of the screen, there are some of the numbers which look like outliers to me. And some of those outliers, and I'll probably tweak some of the formulas on this, but some of the things that I look at, and you should be looking at and go, that's probably not a realistic number to be able to hold up. That's how I would look at those ones. And when we understand what buy lows and sell highs are, it's about trying to find the things that don't make sense, which might be a little bit hidden down in the bottom part of someone's ideas about trading in fantasy. So, Jalen Brunson. The numbers are okay, but you shouldn't be viewing him as the 61st ranked player. He's not a 38 fantasy point player. He's averaging 26, 2.5, and 6. He's shooting 46 and 83, so nothing there is outrageous. Here are the things that stand out to me. He's not a big steals guy, but he's averaging half a steal. Half a steal versus 0.9 steals, or 0.8 steals, or 1 steal is actually a significant difference in terms of the value of a player. He hasn't blocked a single shot. He is not going to be a big shot blocker, but in this small sample size part of the year, when he's played, 6 games or whatever it is, if you block 1 shot in 6 games, that's 3 fantasy points. That's an extra just half a point just on top of it. So he hasn't blocked a single shot. He's also averaging 2.5 rebounds a game. Again, you don't have Jalen Brunson for rebounding, but all of these things are just a little bit low. They're just a little bit low. They should be able to be better, but they're just a little bit low. The other one that is really interesting to me is his 3-point attempt numbers. Now, Tom Thibodeau, for all of the crap that we can give him about things that he does, like putting Karl Anthony Towns back into a game when he's got a wrist injury and they're 30 points up with 7 minutes to go, that's fair enough. Do that. Give him crap for that. It's completely justified. But he has been a guy in the past that's really embraced shooting threes. He has done that. Last season, Brunson attempted 7 threes a game. He's at 5. He's hitting them at a 50% clip, so that's obviously really high, but he needs to shoot more of these. And while that will probably flip back around, the percentage comes back to being normal, the volume is just down. And we know that 3-pointers and 3-point percentages is a multiplier category. If he just gets that little bit of extra on the threes, I think it's important. He's also only at the moment playing under 34 minutes a night, which part of it is blowout related. So as you can see, I think Brunson's still in that second, third round range. At the moment, he's outside the top 50. So when you're considering if you can buy low on him, like you just try and find someone, maybe someone who appears in this show, in the sell high portion of it, who's rolling as a top 30 player. That's a general idea. If you think that Brunson is a top 30 player, and you've got someone that is a top 30 player that you don't think will stick as a top 30 player, that's the sort of trade you can make. And that extracts the value back out of it, I think, in a relatively clear way. Now that all the preamble is out of the way, all of the groundwork is laid, we'll come back and we'll bang out the rest of these buy lows and sell highs. But today's episode is brought to you by Hims. Sometimes, things just don't happen the way that you expect. Intimate moments can happen spontaneously. And that's why you've got to be ready to perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer. Hims gives you that treatment, that access to the treatment, gives you that boost of confidence that you need to be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing healthcare, men's healthcare, by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's surgery visits. You answer a series of questions on their site. The medical provider then determines the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That is HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatments. Hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. If you are just tuning in, that's not how YouTube works, but maybe it is. You're on the premiere, you're just tuning in, and we're here for the old buy lows and sell highs, which is a term which I don't actually like, but it is what we're going with here. Maybe I could be the change that I want to see in the world and call it something different. Let's go to Denver, and let's go to the headmaster, Jamal Murray. It is usually like low-hanging fruit to look at someone who's injured, and that is where Jamal Murray sits. And also, by the way, injury update news. Aaron Gordon, calf strain, multiple weeks. Multiple weeks to me is 4. Peyton Watson, the clear ad. Julian Strother, the next option. Christian Brown, if he's there, do it. It is worth remembering that Aaron Gordon is not a high usage player, so that doesn't mean that everyone else in the starting group gets more usage, because Gordon is not a usage player. But it's an opportunity for Watson and Strother to do more. Right, and I would make sure Watson is added in all 12-team leagues. The other news we got is multiple week absence for Nick Richards. So BDNR's out, drop him. Because I'm guessing Mark Williams will be returning before Richards is out. And they are another team that just doesn't have really another center. So 30-teamers, you look at Taj Gibson and Grant Williams in 14-teamers maybe. On Denver, the headmaster out with a concussion. He won't play Wednesday, Jamal Murray. I'm expecting he's back relatively soon after that. It's been a really rough start for Murray pretty clearly. And we had all these concerns in the preseason. We had them in the playoffs. We had them in the Olympics. There's been a lot of this stuff for Jamal that's really been a struggle for whatever reason it is. Is it an injury thing? I don't know. The concussion's obviously nothing related to that. But at the moment, Murray is really struggling with numbers. And he's averaging 35 minutes a game. So playing time is not the issue here. He's currently ranked 95th for the season. I think he's around 50th. I've got him 43rd, which, again, that 43rd can mean he's the 30th best player or the 60th best player, whatever. There's broad ranges based on small changes. But 95 is way off that. I also think he could push to be a 40 fantasy point player, and he's averaging 30. So why? What's happening? What are the outliers? He's averaging 16 points a game. Okay, so we know what Jamal Murray is. He averages 20 the last 2 games in last 2 years in under 33 minutes a night. Under 32 last season. 16 is a ridiculously large drop. He's only hitting 1.5 threes a game, under 1.5. Last season, 2.5. The year before, 2.6. So, obviously, big change. His assists are down, 4.4. Now, I did expect that assists would be down for Murray this season because Westbrook was there. He also hasn't blocked a single shot, and he averaged 0.7 last season. Now, the year before, he averaged 0.2, so the 0.7 is a bit weird. But he hasn't blocked a single shot. He's shooting 30% from 3. 30. He's only attempting 4.6 threes per game. Last season, 5.8. And his usage is down at 21%. And I did think that his usage would drop this season, again, with Westbrook there, but he was at 28 last season. He was at 27 the year before. So he's just not doing anything. The ball's not in his hands quite as much. He's not taking as many shots. He's not taking as many threes. The threes aren't going in. There's a lot of easy stuff for this to change. Easy stuff. Usage bumps up 3 percentage points. Get to 5.5 threes a game. Shoot 35% on threes. And then we're back in business. Like, it's annoying, and this is one of those interesting ones in terms of buy low, sell highs. Because with Jamal Murray, there's been a lot of negative talk about what he did the end of last season with the playoffs and what he did in the Olympics and what he's done so far. There's a lot of that talk about him that's negative. So it shouldn't be that hard. And if you go, Yahoo's got the page where you look at the individual trades that have been pulled off. And obviously there can be cheating trades in part of this as well. But the top 2 trades there are Jamal Murray for Michael Porter. Like, come on. And Jamal Murray for John Collins. What are you guys doing? Like that, they are relatively like easy swindles. I'm not saying they're available to happen in other leagues. They're not, but they obviously did somewhere. A lot of these trades, when you look at the Yahoo trade market, are like 3-for-1s. Like, there's a crazy one here, which is Jamal Murray, Dennis Schroeder, and Jalen Duren for Nikola Vucevic. Like, what are you guys doing? But Murray's been considered a throw-in in a lot of these trades. And yeah, I don't think you should be viewing him that way. Doesn't make a lot of sense. As much as I was not big on drafting him this season, what he's doing now is well below any expectations I think that we should or could have. Let's move out to Brooklyn to look at a buy low player, and let's go to Nicholas Claxton. Again, this one, relatively obvious why, but that might be obvious to you, but not to everybody. And the reason I say this is that I have a lot of people who watch this channel. I have a lot of people who follow me, either at Basketball Monster members there, or they are follow me on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is, right? I have a lot of people, and I see a lot of discussion about fantasy basketball. So I saw the discussion about Claxton, about, would we drop him? What are we doing here? What's our plan? And it's all been bad so far. He's like 122nd in category league rankings so far this season. He's averaging under 27 fantasy points. These are all bad. But it's pretty obvious what's happening. He's averaging 22 minutes a game. He's averaging 9.5 points and 7 rebounds. Those numbers are both well below what we expect. He's blocking 1.1 shots per game. 1.1. Last season, 2.1. The year before, 2.5. In 30 minutes. Like, that's going to come up. He's attempting 6 shots per game. 6. I'm not saying that he's a huge usage player, but there's not many usage players on this team. He's shooting an abominable 35% from the line. And while when you draft Claxton, you know that you're going to be bad at free throws, so you're punting that category, every free throw you miss is a point off your total. So if he goes back to 55 or 60%, maybe that's an extra point or 2 per game. He's also only attempting 6.1 2-point attempts per game. He started the last game. The minutes are on the rise. He is going to push back to 30 minutes. I'm very confident of that. I'm very confident of it. But you need to be, like, the time to get in is probably now. I'll give you a tip on some of this stuff. Like, I'm not going to mention Tyrese Halliburton as a buy low, because it's very hard, even though all the numbers have not been great. He's ranked 66th this season. Yesterday, he was awesome. Fred VanVleet has been a clear buy low all the way. He's only 86th this season. Yesterday, he was really, really good. It is hard to execute a buy low after the player has the reversion game, which is what happened to those guys yesterday. So I'm not going to include those players on this list, just in case you were wondering. The next buy low player we go. This one is a little bit more. The reasons are again are clear, but Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller is on this list because he currently ranks 184th. He's averaging under 22 fantasy points. He has played 3 games this year, and one of those he left early. But it was also the part of a lot of this trading stuff and value in players can be psychology. That happened 2 weeks ago when he left that game early. Not everyone remembers that. Last game, he played low minutes. There was a blowout. But it's not only that. A lot of those rate stats you can ignore. The 22 fantasy points. I think he's like a top 80-ish per game player this season, but he's like ranked 184th, which is obviously not good. He's averaging under 11 points, 2 threes and 2 rebounds. But these are the reasons where we can actually extract value, because people can look at that and go, that'll all bump up. But he's also shooting 34% from the field. He's also shooting only 36% from 2. His true shooting's at 47%. His 2-point attempts are very low. He's also not taking enough threes, I don't think. And part of that, all of those counting stat things, are based on minutes. And those minutes will push back up. But you've only got a very narrow window here to be able to get something out of Miller. And while ignoring the minutes, it's the percentages which are further dragging him down. I think he's got 33 fantasy points per game in him. So when you're looking at trading, look for someone who's maybe exceeding that number, but you think is going to fall away. So Miller, not only is the minutes down and there was an injury, but he just can't hit anything at the moment. And that is a problem, clearly. And the counting, 2.3 rebounds, 2.7 assists are bad. And I think we did have that worry about him not being super strong in those areas. He's a little bit of a harder one to pull that trade off because he's not someone where there is vitriol around him like there is for a Van Vliet or a Halliburton or even like a Claxton. He's someone that is generally beloved. But there's a trade here like Brandon Miller for Bradley Beal. Like, that's fine. I think that's a pretty good trade. There's also a trade of Brandon Miller for Trey Mann, which clearly makes no sense in this Yahoo marketplace. And then some insane 4 for 5 deals. If you're doing a trade where you're trading away 40% of your roster, probably don't do it. That's my advice to you if you're looking at multiple player deals. Probably don't do it. The last buy low, we're going to go to LA because D'Lo is struggling. Again, I said this the other day. I wish I was more forceful in when I heard about the Lakers' sort of internal plan to feature Reeves more than Russell, and I soft-faded Russell towards the end of the draft period, and I should have been more forceful in that. But regardless of what we think here, like D'Lo, who I think is probably going to be around 90th for the year, he's like 135th. He's averaging only 25 fantasy points, and I think he's a 30-point guy. He's averaging 12 points a game. He's not even hitting 2 threes. He's only getting 2.5 rebounds. He's shooting 38 from the field and 31 from 3. And that's where the real like easy money stuff comes in. Sure, he's only playing 31 minutes a night. Yeah, the assist rate's a little bit lower than what you'd hope, but it's not that bad. His usage is well down, 18%. But over the last, 3 games, it's back over to 21. It's really just the shooting's not there. He's not rebounding the ball at all. And he's also playing like slightly lower minutes than you'd expect. Maybe 2-3 extra minutes. I think he's a clear top 100, maybe top 90 player. And he's not playing like that at the moment. So there is an opportunity here, I think, for you to get D'Lo when he's also a guy that it depends who you're talking to, right? Some people have a very high opinion of him. Some people think he's terrible. And that's where discussions and understanding league members and just having those sort of ideas in your league is interesting because the person who has him might be like, no, I'm a big D'Lo guy. He's going to be great. He carried me to a title last year. So you're just not going to be able to do it. And I think I said this already, but like players on a buy low list does not mean you have to get them. That is not what it means at all. It does not mean you have to trade from them because that puts you in a position where you will, guaranteed, make a mistake. We'll be back with the sell highs in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Built. Yes, it's brought to you by Built. If you've been renting or you are renting now, you all know that feeling where you're just burning cash with those rent checks. It just sort of disappears. It gets frustrating. But Built Rewards has figured out a way to make rent more rewarding. Yes, they have. As I try and figure something out. Say goodbye to the money bonfire and say hello to a renter's revolution with Built. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month that you pay your rent, you watch the Built points roll in. You can use those points to jet off on a dream vacation. You put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with over 500 plus airlines and over 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and by Bankrate. So earn points by, as my thing disappears, earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That is joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL and they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba to start earning points with your rent payments today. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time, the innovators, the legends across the ticket industry. They are out here showing you the way that you can find better tickets. And that's with a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting the tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, filtering out all of the nonsense, all of the garbage, all of the fluff that shows you only the incredible deals on the great seats, so you don't have to waste that time. You get the views from your seat in there as well, where you can just check what it's going to look like when you're sitting at the arena, the stadium, whatever it is. You can see what your seats look like and how it all is going to come together when you get to that event. Plus, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. That'll bring us now into chatting about sell high players. So let's go to Sacramento and let's talk about DeMar DeRozan. It's been an awesome start to the season for DeRozan. He's putting up unbelievably good numbers in Sacramento. We weren't really sure how it was all going to distribute in Sacramento with him joining Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. Sabonis, I think, is around the 50th best player. He's currently 21st. He's 38 fantasy points is what I think he's probably going to average. He's at 42. He's averaging 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. He's putting up, like they are, without doubt, fantastic numbers. Awesome stuff. He's averaging 4 assists, which is a number that's not supremely high, clearly, because we've seen him do better than that. He's averaging 2 steals a game. And you might not think that is much. But realistically, that, which in a Yahoo scoring is 3 fantasy points, brings him back down from 42 to 39. That's it. That's 3 points. 3 points is a round of fantasy value. In nearly every draft, it is a round of fantasy value. So when we're talking about what DeRozan is bringing, those numbers are great. Is he going to continue to be a 53% shooter? That's probably going to wax and wane. For as good as he is, that is a high number. And last season he shot 48, and the year before he shot 50, and the year before that he shot 50. He's hitting his twos at 56%, and last season he was at 51, and the year before he was at 53, and the year before he was at 52. All right, really unlikely to hold at those numbers. His usage is about the same as where it was. His assist rate's actually down, and I think that's reasonable. But pair those steal numbers when he averaged 1.1, 1.1, and 0.9 the last 3 years. Compare it to 2 steals a game. Drop your field goals 3 percentage points. And I think you see that he's not lasting as a top 25 player. The steals is the big outlier. The field goal percentage is an outlier as well. The free throws, well, this is sort of who he is, and the free throw attempts are actually identical. All that's sort of bang on where it needs to be. He's actually taking about the same threes as last season. He's hitting them at a pretty solid rate, 35%. That might wax or wane, I don't know. But the steals are too high. The field goal percentage and the 2-point percentage are too high as well. And we are going to see that stuff come down. I am fairly confident of that being the case with DeMar DeRozan. Even though it's been a great start, there's stuff there that is going to fall. Now, I know that you're going to come in here and tell me, why can't you just admit you're wrong on this next guy, Nikola Vucevic? Why can't you? I'll tell you why, right? Because I'm not. I might be. I might end up being wrong. But I'm neither right nor wrong now. And Vooch, to me, I am not going to flip my opinion on a player based on 2 weeks of data that way. I'm not going to make that flip and change in judgment. There are a million outliers here for Vooch, which make me very cautious about how you should be approaching this. I think he's around that 55 mark for the season. He's 11th so far. I think he's a 38-ish fantasy point player. He's at 43. That's another, if you're in a category, another little indicator. If the gap in fantasy points is nowhere near as large as the gap in category rankings, probably means something's going to fall. Fantasy points guys can pay attention to that as well. It means there's going to be a fall. Vooch is averaging 22 and 11 with almost 4 assists. He's averaging a block a game with 55 and 96% shooting. So automatically your red flags should be going up. Vooch is... Yeah, look, again, I still don't think that Nikola Vucevic is a very good player. I don't think he's a top 15 NBA center. I think he's maybe a top 20 NBA center who plays on a team that is going to have fast pace, but is going nowhere, and he's going to put up numbers to a degree. But the reason that I think his 22 points a game is an outlier, well, the man averaged 18 last season, 17.6 the year before that, and 17.6 the year before that. It seems pretty unlikely to me that he's just going to become that much better because his usage is actually down this season. So how is he doing this? Well, this guy hit 1.2 threes last year. He's doubled that number. He's at 2.3. He averaged 0.8 blocks and 0.7 blocks the last 2 seasons. He's at 1 a game. But importantly, this is where it gets really important. He's hitting 96% of his free throws. He was 82 last season. So he can still be good at free throws and lose immense value. He's also attempting 3 free throws a game. Last season, 1.7. He's also hitting 49% of his threes. What did he shoot last season? 29 and 35 and 31 the last 3 years. His true shooting, well, there's got to be some devil work involved here. It's 6.66. So regardless of if you think, no, he's just awesome, again, he is not. He does put up popcorn stats, but he is not an awesome player, and that I will not be swayed on. He is outperforming fantasy value at the moment, but in order to believe that he holds this value, you have to believe he's a 96% free throw shooter who misses 1 free throw for the season and a 49% three-point shooter. You have to believe those things. And if those 2 things fall, the points per game will fall. The blocks have got a real chance of falling as well. And we'll see where the free throw attempt rate goes. That is driving all of this with Vooch. Now, I'm going to guess the people that have Vooch in their league are the people who believed in him more than I believed in him anyway. So how do you part ways with a player like that? You've got to think that is there anyone who thinks that this is a top 25 player in your league? It is, because I get a lot of pushback about me saying that I don't think Vooch is very good anymore. I would say the majority of people still think he's actually quite good until they watch him. But I think a large portion of people think he's a good player. So I actually think this is relatively pull-offable. There'll be people who do believe in him as a top 25 player, and I won't be one of them. As always, with these buy lows and sell highs, we do a 2-week check-in to see where the value of these players has gone since we did it, and we evaluate how that goes. But there is absolutely zero chance that this stuff for Vooch holds. Zero. None. Not happening. Not holding. Not a chance in the world. Jordan Poole. It's pretty hard to do, I think, the sell high. But I think, again, part of the idea of the show is to look at guys who, when you're basing the strengths of your team on things, are going to be, are you relying upon what they're producing? And with Poole, I just don't think you should. I think the top 50 is distinctly possible for him. I've got him 49th. He's 6th so far. He's averaging 40 fantasy points. I've got him at 34. He's averaging 22 points, 4 threes, somehow only 1 rebound, 5 assists, and 2.8 steals and 1.2 blocks, shooting 45 and 92. So look, there's very obvious outliers here. He's shooting 45% on threes. Not going to stick. He's hitting 4 threes a game. Not going to stick. Now, it is definitely possible that Jordan Poole is a better steals player than he has been in the past. His deflection numbers are up, which is usually a really good indicator. Brian Keefe is doing some different things defensively with this team that is helping Poole. But I am so sorry to tell you that nobody averages 2.8 steals ever. That could cut in half and Jordan Poole will still have an important and improved steals game. He's also averaging 1.2 blocks. He is averaging 4 times as many blocks as he did last season. And 4 times as many blocks as he did the year before that. And 4 times as many blocks as he did the year before that. These numbers they're not rooted in reality at all. Like, they're not. 62 true shooting is an unbelievably high number. Poole is not that guy, pal. I'm telling you. I was happy to go back out there and put myself on the line to tell you that I believed in drafting Jordan Poole again, which I did, and it's worked out so far. But it is not holding. This is not holding. The steals are not holding. The three-pointers are not holding. The free throws a game might not hold at 4.2. He averaged 2.8 last season. Now, he had big free throws back in Golden State, but part of the reason he sucked last season, he never got to the line. This is not holding. If I could get any top 35 player for Poole, I would. I would do it. You probably can't, though. I just saw in the Yahoo Marketplace there was a trade Poole for Van Vliet. That's an interesting one. I think I would do that. Poole for Gobert? I don't know that I would do that, but that's also one of those ones where it's about the value of your team and the sort of stats that you need. It's a tougher one to pull off. Absolutely. But I see a trade here also on the Yahoo Marketplace. Jordan Poole and Rudy Gobert for Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, probably would do it. But again, that's a real change in what your team looks like. It's just a lot there. As much as we love what Poole is doing, and you got him really late in some drafts, like in most of my drafts, he was going in the 60s, and a lot of your drafts, he was going at 100 or 110. I know that part of it as well. So the probable thing is here, just ride this out because it's awesome and you love it, but it's not holding. It's not going to. New Orleans is another place that we can go to find some sell high action, and we'll go to Brandon Ingram. I was pretty down on what Ingram was going to be able to do this season because when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he doesn't really sort of know what to do. He's not a steals or blocks guy. He has some issues at percentages, and his free throws did drop quite a bit last season, and that was a little bit of a worry. At the moment, he's the 32nd ranked player. He's averaging 40 fantasy points, and that's obviously awesome. And I didn't think he'd be that good. But this is an obvious one to me. And this is one where I think you probably need to look at doing it now because to get a successful trade, you usually need to take pain early. You can't wait until the script flips. You can't wait for that. You have to be willing to take the pain. And if you trade away Ingram for someone who's performing worse than him at the moment, you will lose in the short term because Zion is out, Jordan Hawkins was out, CJ McCollum is out, DeJounte Murray is out, Trey Murphy is out, and Herb Jones are out. Ingram's literally the last man. BJ Boston's starting and playing 35 minutes. So Ingram's 25 points a game. I don't think he hits that. 2.5 threes is an interesting thing. I don't know that he does that. He's really dropped his volume down last season. His 20 field goal attempts per game, really don't think that's holding. 6.6 three-point attempts per game is a very high number for him. 31 usage is an insane number. None of that stuff is going to hold. You know what? Actually, maybe 88 from the line does hold. Not sure. It dropped down to like 81 last season. The other stuff won't. As players trickle back, and then as Ingram inevitably gets hurt at some point as well, all of this goes away. The three-point volume drops, the usage drops, the field goal attempts drop, the scoring drops. It all drops. It's all based on the fact that there is just a lot of players who aren't there. And they're not going to be there for a few weeks. That's what I mean. You take on the short-term pain in that one. Lastly, let's go to Minnesota. And this is a great one because Naz Reid cooked yesterday. He was unbelievably good in that game yesterday. He's currently the 71st ranked player this season. I think his fantasy points numbers are about right, to be honest. I think they're about the right spot. 27 fantasy points, that's what I think you can average. I don't think that he's a clear top 100 fantasy guy in category leagues, though. He's averaging 15 and 6, 0.7 blocks, and 1.9 assists, and that's all. That's actually relatively reasonable for Naz, the Wizard of Noz. But this is one of those ones where it is just blatantly, blindingly obvious that there is going to be a regression. You might think that he's better than Julius Randle. Doesn't matter. The T-Wolves don't. You might think that he's better than Rudy Gobert. Doesn't matter. The T-Wolves don't. Right? None of that matters. What does matter here is that in his 25 minutes a game, which is only 1 minute increase from last season, right? Only 1 minute. He's shooting 58% from the field. Last season, 48%. He's shooting 94% from the line. Last season, 74%. The year before, 68%. The year before, 77%. It's very much possible that he's improved. How many guys are 90% plus free throw shooters? One guy? Two guys? And it's not him. 49% on threes. He's a pretty good three-point shooter. 41% last year. 34 and 34 the 2 years before that. You know, I could easily make an argument that he is a 40% three-point shooter. That's okay. It's not 49 though. 68% on twos. All right. Shot 54 last year. Every percentage is miles above. Look at that true shooting, 74%. That's Daniel Gafford. 74%. That's prime DeAndre Jordan. There is absolutely zero chance of that holding. And when that comes back to, for example, and we can just use true shooting as a placeholder for all of those numbers. Last season, Naz Reid, true shooting, 59.5, above league average. The year before, 61.7. The year before, 58.7. Let's say he's improved to a 62, 63 guy. Still going to lose 12 to 13 percentage points, which does end up dropping his scoring, dropping his three-pointers made, dropping your field goal percentage impact, your free throw percentage impact. it is just not sticking, man. I don't care how much you love him. You can't make an argument that those numbers are real. You can't do it. And that is why he is a very, very clear sell high. And a sell high doesn't mean getting a top 120 guy back. It means finding someone who's a big Nas guy who thinks he's better than Randall or Gobert and his minutes are going to rise up and they're going to just feed Nas Reed, which people think. Because none of that stuff I don't think is happening without injury. And the shooting has zero shot. Zero. Not even 0.01. Zero shot of holding rest of season. So that's your buy low, sell high show, which really is just about talking about players who are under and overperforming. Hit the thumb on this video. Subscribe. I'll be back with a Wednesday preview show later in the day. Stay tuned. We're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.